While playing a game of truth or dare, my boyfriend Randolph kissed his ex-girlfriend, passionately, for 3 whole minutes, to save her from some ridiculous penalty. When I found out, I completely lost it. I caused a scene, yelling, crying, unable to hold back my anger and betrayal. Randolph didn't say a word at first. He just stared at me silently, his face expressionless. Then, in a voice as cold as ice, he finally said, "Are you done crying?" After that, he drove his ex home without looking back. I squatted in the rain outside, drenched and trembling, watching couples share umbrellas and laugh softly together. That night, I decided, once and for all, I would never message Randolph again. 3 months passed. One afternoon, I bought a men's watch at an auction. Somehow, the news reached Randolph. When he heard, he chuckled to himself and muttered, "All right, in 3 days I'll go and win her back. She just needs an excuse to come around." His friend even messaged me to congratulate me, telling me I had Randolph completely under control. I ignored them all. Instead, I posted a simple status update on Facebook: married. The day Randolph kissed his ex wasn't just any day, it was my birthday. He had promised to take me to a private villa that evening to watch fireworks. I had taken my time getting ready, carefully choosing a red mini dress, even though it was nearly autumn and the air was already getting chilly. I stood waiting outside in the cold, shivering slightly. Eventually, a sleek black Maybach pulled up to the gate. Avoiding my mother's teasing glance, I quickly slipped into the car. Inside, I reached for his hand, slipping mine into the pocket of his coat. Randolph stiffened slightly, glanced at the driver, then frowned and gently removed my hand, as if it were inappropriate. The car was headed toward the airport, and halfway there, his phone rang. I glanced at the screen. The name Ashley lit up, and immediately, I felt a wave of annoyance. Ever since she came back from studying abroad, she had been inserting herself into every moment I tried to spend with Randolph. Whenever the 3 of us were together, it felt awkward and off. But Randolph never seemed to mind. In fact, whenever I brought it up, he accused me of being overly sensitive and unwilling to accept someone he had known since childhood. This time was no different. When I tried to stop him from answering the call, he shrugged my hand off and picked up anyway. On the other end, Ashley's voice came through, trembling with sobs. "Randolph, I'm at Champs Club." I saw the change in Randolph's face, and my heart dropped. Her voice was broken up, but the meaning was clear. She had lost a round of truth or dare and needed to kiss a man for 3 minutes, or face some kind of penalty. She didn't say what the punishment was, only repeated how badly she didn't want it. Without hesitation, Randolph said, "I'll be right there." After he hung up, he lowered his eyes and told the driver to take me home before heading to the club. I refused. "If you go, will you kiss her again?" I asked quietly. "Randolph, I don't want a man who's already tainted, and don't forget, it's my birthday." That was the line I wasn't willing to cross. He reached out and pinched my cheek lightly, his expression darkening. "I won't. They'll show some respect. Don't worry, I'll be back soon. Be good, Stacy." Not long after I returned home, my phone lit up with a video. It was filmed in a dimly lit private room. Ashley was sitting on Randolph's lap, kissing him deeply. When she leaned in, Randolph didn't pull away. In fact, I could see the faintest smile tugging at the corner of his lips. Even if it was Ashley who initiated it, the scene was far too intimate. Around them, people were cheering and laughing. Tears streamed down my face. I called Randolph immediately. When he didn't pick up, I called again. On the 3rd attempt, he finally answered. I didn't hesitate. "Let's break up," I said, the words like shards of glass in my throat. It hurt more than I expected. Images from our 3 years together flashed through my mind. Randolph had always been aloof, cold to most people, carrying the kind of arrogance that came with wealth and privilege. But with me, at least before Ashley came back, he had been attentive, even gentle. I started crying again, recounting all the little things that had changed since she returned. On Valentine's Day, he took me to the movies, but during the scary scenes, he leaned over to cover Ashley's eyes instead of mine. I was his girlfriend. That should have been me. Randolph had always said he hated amusement parks, no matter how often I begged him to go, but on his birthday, when I surprised him at his villa, he arrived carrying 2 bags of cartoon plushes. Later, I found out Ashley had dragged him to an amusement park that afternoon. I poured my heart out until my voice turned hoarse. Randolph remained silent the entire time. Finally, when I could cry no more, he said in that same cold tone, "Are you done crying?" There was a faint trace of annoyance in his voice. Like he was tired of me. It hit me like a bucket of ice water. I suddenly realized how pathetic I must have looked. Breaking down over someone who didn't even bother to comfort me. I whispered, "Yes," and didn't say anything else. He hung up. An hour later, I received an anonymous photo. It showed Randolph carrying Ashley into a car. Her hand was tucked into the pocket of his coat. This time, he didn't push it away. I sank to the floor, closed my eyes, and let the tears fall onto my hands. After a long while, I stood up, went to the bathroom, and washed my face. I composed myself. Then told my parents everything. The breakup, the video, all the things I'd kept bottled up. They were furious, but more importantly, they were loving and full of concern. Surrounded by their warmth, I finally felt a sense of relief. I was lucky. I had grown up in a home full of love. I wasn't someone who needed to cling to a man who didn't love me back. Maybe I couldn't fully let go just yet, but deep down, I knew I would, sooner than I thought. That night, Randolph dropped Ashley off at her house and got ready to leave. Just before he turned to go, Ashley blushed and asked if he wanted to stay. After everything that had just happened, there was a charged, almost palpable tension between them, one that spoke of adult intentions and unspoken feelings. Randolph knew exactly what she meant, but a cold wind blew through just then, scattering the moment into silence. Randolph thought about Stacy's tearful pleas from earlier and shook his head in mild annoyance. "No," Ashley asked with a knowing smile. "Let me guess. You're off to coax your little girlfriend now." Honestly, Randolph, if you keep spoiling her, don't be surprised when she wraps you around her finger completely. You'll probably end up dealing with endless breakups in the future. Randolph frowned slightly, suddenly uncertain of what he truly wanted. The urge to comfort Stacy quickly faded from his mind. With a brief nod, he gave Ashley a simple goodbye and walked out the door. Inside his car, Randolph found himself staring at his chat history with Stacy. Seeing no new messages from her, he felt inexplicably irritated. At the club, gossip spread quickly within their social circle. The moment Randolph entered, several friends immediately began teasing him. It must be tough managing so many beauties. You've got the stunning Stacy and your childhood sweetheart Ashley, yet you still look miserable, probably because Stacy finally dumped him this time, another friend joked. Randolph sat down calmly on the sofa, crossing his long legs casually before shooting them an icy glare. "Since when did your tongues grow so loose?" The group fell quiet, exchanging amused glances. "From the looks of your temper, seems like we hit a nerve," someone remarked lightly. "Seriously though, Randolph. Kissing Ashley while still being with Stacy, it might be common in our circle, but it's hardly classy. Aren't you worried Stacy might actually leave you for good?" Randolph picked up his wine glass and took a slow sip. "She's talked about breaking up far too many times recently," he said coolly. "Maybe it's time to let things cool down." The others chuckled knowingly. True enough, 3 days later, my mom set me up on a blind date without giving me any room to protest. Before I knew what was happening, she'd already dressed me in an elegant cream-colored Chanel dress. "Just go and meet him," she urged, gently pushing me out the door. "He's already waiting. If you don't show up, how am I supposed to explain this?" With no other choice, I reluctantly agreed. But I intended to make my feelings clear once I arrived. Randolph and I had just ended our relationship. After all, it wasn't that I couldn't let go. I simply wasn't ready to jump straight into something new. When I arrived at the private dining room located on the top floor of the address my mom had given me, I was startled to see a young man wearing a casual white sweatshirt waiting for me. He had a youthful, energetic face, looking no older than 22 or 23, as if he'd just graduated college, but more strikingly, he seemed familiar. The moment he saw me, his eyes brightened in recognition. "Stacy." My memory suddenly clicked into place. It was Tyler, my mother's best friend Verna's son. Years ago, during my college days, Tyler had stayed at our house for a short while. Back then, he'd been 18, sent over by his mother because of his rebellious attitude and poor grades. My mom had warned me about him. He was the youngest in his family, notoriously troublesome and rebellious. The first time I'd seen him, he'd sported a black ear stud and walked with an arrogant air. Trailed by a group of unruly friends, I still vividly remembered standing on our balcony, watching him scowl at someone who teased him about being kicked out, barking sharply. Scram. At the time, I was 20 and still in college, and I'd decided to stay far away from him. Yet, his striking, defiant face had left an indelible impression. Now, meeting him again years later, he seemed completely different, more mature, composed, and far less rebellious. "Tyler," I greeted hesitantly. He appeared slightly surprised that I remembered him, his smile deepening. "Yes, it's me. I couldn't believe my mother had arranged for me to meet someone so young, especially someone I already knew. What was she thinking?" As I sat down across from him, the waiter swiftly brought out several dishes, all my favorites. I initially planned to reject him outright, but sitting face to face, it felt awkward to be so blunt. After an uneasy silence, I finally spoke up. "You're quite young. Isn't it too soon for you to be on a blind date?" Tyler's dark, narrow eyes locked onto mine. "I was the one who asked my mom to arrange this meeting," he replied calmly. "And no, I'm not too young at all." He possessed delicate yet sharp features, a defined jawline, and a confident bearing, even in a casual sweatshirt. I could sense the lean muscles beneath the fabric. His gaze was intense, clearly communicating a message I couldn't ignore. I turned away slightly and softly explained my recent breakup with Randolph. Tyler's jaw tightened briefly, but his gaze quickly softened. "That's just your past. It doesn't matter. You're single now, right?" He paused, his voice dropping gently. "Besides, I've liked you for a long time." I was stunned into silence, unsure how to respond. Throughout the meal, Tyler barely ate, instead thoughtfully peeling shrimp and crab for me. Feeling embarrassed, I gently protested. "You really don't have to. It's too much trouble." Tyler glanced up, disappointment flickering briefly in his eyes. "It's okay, even if you don't like me, it doesn't change how I feel about you." Awkwardly, I lowered my head, unable to find suitable words. When we were leaving, Tyler suddenly pinned me lightly against the door. He leaned closer, squinting slightly, his gaze penetrating mine before a faint smile appeared. "What's wrong?" I asked nervously. He gently reached out, brushing his thumb across my lips. "Nothing, just a small smudge." Standing so close, I had to tilt my head up to meet his eyes, noticing the gentle bobbing of his Adam's apple. Thankfully, he soon released me, politely offering to drive me home. Before I could decline, he'd already ushered me toward his black Jeep. When we arrived at my building, Tyler got out first to open the passenger side door for me. However, I struggled awkwardly with my seatbelt. Seeing my difficulty, he leaned in to help. The cool scent of amber and musk surrounded me as his face drew closer. When the belt finally clicked free, I instinctively moved forward, only to accidentally bump my chest directly into his face. Instantly mortified, my cheeks burned red, and I hurriedly pushed him away, trying to leap out of the car. Unfortunately, I misjudged the distance, tumbling straight out onto Tyler, knocking both of us to the ground. A chorus of shocked gasps erupted around us. Instinctively, I jerked my head away, only to realize, with even greater embarrassment, that I had turned straight into Tyler's lips. Another wave of startled murmurs followed. Flustered, I quickly pulled away, and when I looked up, I saw my mother standing nearby alongside an elegant woman whose amused eyes darted between Tyler and me. "Isn't this progressing a bit too fast?" my mother remarked, raising an eyebrow teasingly. "Ah, young people these days," the other woman sighed, feigning resignation but clearly entertained by the situation. Mortified, I scrambled quickly to my feet. Tyler stood up as well, his ears turning a vivid shade of crimson. Attempting to ease the awkward tension, he softly called out to the woman beside my mother, "Mom," before either of us could clarify. His mother cheerfully stepped forward. "So, does this mean your blind date was a success? Are you two officially dating now?" I opened my mouth, ready to explain the misunderstanding, but Tyler was already nodding earnestly. As I turned to him, he leaned closer and whispered shyly, That was my first kiss. All eyes shifted to me, awaiting my confirmation. Under the collective gaze of expectation, explanations seemed pointless. So I simply nodded. After all, how could I possibly explain accidentally falling onto Tyler and kissing him in front of his mother? Later that evening, after returning home, my phone buzzed with a message from Tyler. "If you're not interested, don't feel pressured, I'm fine either way." His thoughtful message stirred a pang of guilt inside me. After pondering for a while, I decided there was nothing to lose. He was undeniably handsome, charmingly kind, and we already knew each other well. Why not give this a real chance? Thus began my relationship with Tyler. He would regularly pick me up, taking me out to amusement parks, secluded hot springs, horseback riding, archery ranges, and surfing at the beach, always brimming with youthful energy and enthusiasm. Even when we watched movies, his eyes would linger affectionately on me rather than the screen. He was sweet, attentive, and obedient, like an affectionate puppy. The only catch, of course, was that he was younger than me. Every time I brought this up jokingly, my mother brushed it aside, laughing. "Being young has its perks, you'll see soon enough." Tyler's birthday approached, and he invited me early to the celebration. Realizing I had never given him a proper gift before, I decided to attend a charity auction to select something special. I'd heard about a luxurious 8-figure watch being auctioned that night. Although Tyler's wealthy uncle treated him like his own son, I still felt the urge to give him something personally meaningful. Unexpectedly, at the auction, I spotted one of Randolph's friends, Wendell, eyeing the same watch. Initially, he didn't notice me. After several competitive rounds of bidding, I finally raised my paddle for the last, winning bid. As I stood up to finalize the purchase, Wendell finally recognized me, his eyes wide with shock. "Stacy, what are you doing here? Were you bidding on that watch?" I nodded, offering a polite smile. Unlike Randolph's other friends, Wendell had always been cordial toward me, though we weren't particularly close. Conscious of the time, I was already running late. I quickly exchanged a few pleasantries and left for Tyler's birthday party. The celebration was held at the Champs Club, the city's largest and most exclusive private venue. I hurried home to change from my formal business suit into a soft pink bodycon dress that hugged my curves gently, its hemline falling gracefully above the knee and finishing with a delicate fishtail flourish. I styled my hair into loose waves and applied a bit of makeup, feeling a little excitement at the thought of Tyler's reaction. Though Tyler had offered to pick me up, I'd declined, knowing it wouldn't look appropriate for the host to leave his guests. When I arrived at the private room carrying my gift, I noticed the door to the adjacent room was slightly ajar. Familiar voices drifted through, Randolph's unmistakable tone. Despite Kyoto being neither too large nor too small, it wasn't unusual to encounter acquaintances unexpectedly. Inside, Wendell was saying, "Guess who I saw at the auction today?" "Who?" Randolph asked casually from the center sofa, his expression calm. Wendell chuckled lightly. "Stacy." Randolph's fingers twitched slightly, his attention sharpening subtly. "She bought that watch. The men's watch. Actually, I was bidding on it too." Wendell continued, amused, "But Stacy really went all out. She practically lit sky lanterns for it." He added, referring to how I'd significantly overbid, "It must have been for you." Randolph leaned back, a smug smile forming on his lips. "She's really pulling all the stops this time, isn't she? Spending so extravagantly just to lower her pride." Wendell sipped his drink thoughtfully. "She obviously still likes you. Aren't you planning to reconcile? It's been 3 months since she contacted you." Randolph smirked dismissively. "It's just a Cold War. By now, she should have calmed down and realized her place. I'll coax her back in 3 days. She's headstrong. But I know exactly how to give her an elegant way out." His intention was obvious. Everyone in the room exchanged knowing glances, their eyes finally landing on Ashley, who sat next to Randolph looking visibly uncomfortable. Deciding I'd heard enough, I turned away sharply, pushing open the door to Tyler's private party room. Tyler's friends weren't quite what I'd anticipated. Despite their young age and varied personalities, some reserved, some extravagant, they treated me with remarkable courtesy and warmth, almost as if Tyler had briefed them in advance. Several girls immediately approached me, chatting enthusiastically about fashion and jewelry. Once we became more familiar, a few blushed shyly and gathered around me affectionately, burying their faces against my chest as they hugged me. Tyler quickly intervened, ears glowing red with embarrassment, and pulled me up protectively. "Hey, even I haven't hugged her yet. You guys are way too bold." An awkward silence settled instantly. One of Tyler's close friends rubbed his ear nervously. "Who was talking just now?" he muttered, feigning ignorance. Tyler shot him a cold glare, instantly silencing him. When the party ended, I noticed Tyler's eyes had remained fixed on me the entire evening. Smiling softly, I leaned toward him teasingly. "Do you want a hug, too?" His eyes brightened instantly, eager yet hesitant. "Can I?" Before I could finish speaking, Tyler wrapped an arm securely around my waist. Nearby, a drunken guest whistled appreciatively, eyes lingering on me. Tyler swiftly removed his coat and draped it over my shoulders protectively. "Sis, wait here, I'll get the car," he whispered gently. I nodded, waiting patiently, but after several minutes, Tyler still hadn't returned. When I reached the parking lot, I saw Tyler pinning someone down, throwing a series of relentless punches. His gaze was fierce and wolf-like, filled with intensity. His fists kept striking until he heard my approaching footsteps, at which point he looked up, his expression instantly shifting into that of a guilty puppy caught in the act. As he stood, the man he'd been beating scrambled away quickly, vanishing from sight. Tyler appeared slightly crestfallen, which I couldn't help but find amusing. I stepped closer and reached up to gently ruffle his dark, messy hair. "Hasn't anyone ever told you that men don't like having their heads touched?" I teased with a soft chuckle, his lips curled into a playful smirk. "Maybe regular men don't, but little wolf dogs like me do." After washing his hands clean, Tyler walked with me toward the car. As soon as we settled into our seats, he captured my lips in an intense kiss, whispering afterward, "This is exactly how a wolf dog behaves." Tyler and I had been dating for almost 3 months. Recently, my mother had started gently pressing the idea of marriage, reasoning that since we'd known each other since childhood and were familiar with each other's families, she had no worries about my happiness. Observing Tyler now as he attentively reviewed documents for me, I realized marriage with him might actually be wonderful. After all, he could handle household chores, prepare delicious meals, assist with my paperwork, and still be incredibly charming in private. A true all-rounder. Suddenly feeling decisive, I blurted out, "Tyler, let's get married." He froze in place, slowly lifting his head to stare at me, worried that I'd startled him. I was just about to clarify when he abruptly lunged forward, pinning me down onto the bed. His eyes sparkled eagerly like a loyal puppy's. "You're finally ready to give me an official title, huh?" he whispered with excitement. After I nodded shyly, his tall nose gently grazed mine, and his thin lips softly brushed against me. Even with my clear consent, he hesitated, careful not to overstep any boundaries. When Tyler left the room, his posture was slightly hunched, and traces of blood still lingered on his fingertips from the earlier fight. Watching him walk away with inwardly drawn shoulders, I suddenly realized how deeply he treasured me. We officially registered our marriage not long after. On our way back, Tyler carefully slipped our marriage certificate into his jacket pocket, as if it were a priceless treasure. Upon arriving at his family's home, Tyler's grandmother greeted us warmly, gifting me a nearly transparent, delicate white jade bracelet as a gesture of her blessing. Tyler's aunt, who had once run a wedding planning business, enthusiastically took charge of all our wedding arrangements. His grandfather quietly told me that if Tyler ever caused trouble, I should let him know immediately. Once we returned to our new home together, Tyler eagerly lifted me onto the small cabinet near the entryway, passionately kissing me. He leaned forward, his body pressed firmly between my legs, leaving me breathless and unable to do anything but cling tightly to his neck. "Stacy," he murmured tenderly, his eyes slightly reddened, making him utterly irresistible. Only then did I truly understand what my mother meant when she said marrying someone young was wonderful. When we finally made our way to the couch, I reached for him first. His eyes turned misty, a muffled groan escaping from his lips. At that moment, I understood why people say a man's tears can be a woman's aphrodisiac. Yet before long, Tyler completely turned the tables. In the end, it was me sobbing, begging him for mercy. He savored each moment tirelessly yet gently, his fair skin glistening softly and his prominent Adam's apple bobbing with each heavy breath. What followed was a passionate collision of raw desire. From that day onward, Tyler seemed to possess boundless energy. Thankfully, a sudden call from work soon informed me of a new project needing my attention. Quickly gathering my things, I rushed to the office, relieved for the distraction. Still, I often returned home utterly exhausted. Tyler, considerate as always, didn't pressure me, until one afternoon when I unexpectedly returned home early. From the hallway, I heard Tyler's low voice repeatedly whispering my name, making my ears burn with embarrassment. As I instinctively stepped backward, I accidentally bumped into the sofa chair with a loud thud. Moments later, Tyler emerged from the bathroom, a loosely tied towel hanging low around his hips. I swallowed hard, cheeks warming rapidly, catching my gaze. He smiled knowingly and promptly scooped me into his arms, carrying me back into the steamy bathroom. Life with Tyler was blissful, and I gradually forgot all about the painful past, until a phone call shattered my newfound peace. An unfamiliar number appeared on my screen. When I answered, Ashley's unmistakable voice came through. "Do you know why Randolph indulges me, why he kisses me and takes me to amusement parks? Stacy, you're not naive enough to believe Randolph and I are merely friends, are you?" Her tone was calm, but an unmistakably smug smile colored every word. I stared blankly at the bitter black coffee in front of me, suddenly losing all desire for it. My mind flashed back to Tyler's protective, jealous expression earlier that morning when I had hesitated to come. He'd softly whispered, "We need to face these things head on and settle them. I know there's still a knot in your heart, and I want to help ease that burden, unlike that old man who just watched you cry." Though my feelings for Randolph had faded, lingering resentment remained, not necessarily toward him personally, but toward the pain he and Ashley had caused me, the debt they still owed. Ashley, sensing my reaction, smiled faintly and pulled several photographs from her bag. "Because I'm Randolph's ex-girlfriend. I just never agreed to make our relationship public. At the time, I craved freedom and insisted on studying abroad. Stacy, did you know that the day I left, Randolph practically begged me to stay? So you see, you'll never truly compete with me. You're younger than him, and you probably think he's steady and mature, but that's only because he's already poured all his passion into me. I just didn't anticipate he'd genuinely fall for you." Her eyes betrayed a subtle anger. As I sat staring at pictures of Randolph creating gifts for Ashley and celebrating birthdays with her, I felt the fog in my heart finally lifting entirely. Even the last trace of resentment I'd held against Randolph vanished quietly. Ashley had expected hurt or jealousy, but all I felt was liberation, a quiet clarity and the comforting reassurance that my heart had truly moved on. "You two really are a match made in heaven," I said flatly. "A scumbag and a woman who abandoned her boyfriend to chase freedom, only to come crawling back later and meddle in his new relationship. And him. A man who kept someone else in his heart while pretending to be present with his current partner." Ashley laughed, tossing her hair over her shoulder. "Stacy, don't say that. I was young then, and I left Randolph to follow my dreams. Now I'm just reclaiming what was mine all along, aren't I?" Just then, my phone vibrated. The caller ID was an unknown number, but the repetitive digits were unmistakable. I knew exactly who it was. I picked up the call, giving Ashley a cool, dismissive glance as I answered. "Relax," I said with a faint smile. "A second-hand man like him, I wouldn't fight for him even if he were the last person on earth, let alone care about him." Before I could finish speaking, a low, raspy voice came through the line. "Stacy, what did you just say?" Without a word, I ended the call, blocked the number, grabbed my bag, and turned to leave. As I walked past Ashley, I tipped the entire cup of iced coffee right over her lap. "I used to think, as women, we didn't need to tear each other down," I said calmly. "I never hated you. Randolph was the one who betrayed me, after all, but you just had to come and flaunt your arrogance, didn't you? You insisted on standing in front of me, rubbing salt into my wounds with every smug word. So this is on you." Ashley screamed behind me, But I didn't look back. As I walked away, I heard her sobbing into her phone, likely calling Randolph. Moments later, his message came through. "Stacy, apologize to Ashley." I ignored it completely and drove back to the office. When I returned to my desk, a message from Tyler popped up. "I think I added too much salt," he wrote, along with a photo. In it, he was shirtless, wearing only a deep navy apron. His fair skin and sculpted muscles stood out as he stood at the stove, clearly in the middle of cooking. It was a live photo, so when I clicked it, the audio played. "Grandma, could you stand a little closer?" Tyler's voice said, teasing. "Otherwise, Stacy won't see how handsome I am." A soft laugh followed. "Brat," his grandma said, "I'm old and farsighted, and you still pull me in for your pictures. I've got to win Stacy's heart." Tyler said, "Who knows? Maybe some shameless old flame will regret losing her." I couldn't help but laugh and typed a quick reply. He responded almost instantly, like an excited puppy waiting for attention. When I exited the chat, I noticed a flood of unread messages. All of them said roughly the same thing. "Stacy, I didn't expect Randolph to swallow his pride like this. Congrats. You really have him wrapped around your finger. He's such a proud man, and now he's practically begging to get you back." I remembered how they had all celebrated Ashley's return in the group chat, placing her beside Randolph as if it were some sort of reunion of soulmates. The thought made my stomach turn. Then, remembering Tyler's earlier message, I posted on Facebook, "Married. Don't bother." The post included a photo, our marriage certificate, taken the day we registered. Just as I hit send, my assistant walked in with a stack of documents. I took them, set my phone aside, and got back to work. Meanwhile, when Randolph heard what I had said on the call, a wave of panic washed over him. "Second-hand man." The words cut deep. My voice had sounded so cold. Nothing like the Stacy he used to know. He had opened his mouth to respond, but I had already hung up. When he tried calling back, he realized he'd been blocked. Though he was on a business trip at the time, a strange sense of loss settled heavily over him. Like something vital had just been ripped away. When his phone rang again, he snatched it up immediately. "Stacy," he said, hopeful, but it wasn't me. It was Ashley, her voice thick with tears. "Randolph, I invited Stacy out for tea today. I just wanted to talk to her, help her see things more clearly, but she poured iced coffee all over me." He barely registered what she said. The only word he truly heard was Stacy. Without thinking, he responded, "Stacy, apologize to Ashley." The words had barely left his lips before he regretted them. But it was always like this with him, ever since Ashley came back. Everyone around him had started treating her as his natural partner, leaving Stacy on the sidelines. There had even been a time when he and Ashley were sitting together and someone offered Stacy a distant seat in the corner. She refused, and Ashley awkwardly stood up to offer her spot. When Randolph got up briefly and returned to find Stacy gone, he'd assumed she hadn't gone far. "She's easy to coax," he had thought at the time. "She's probably just sulking by the entrance." Still, he grabbed his car keys and went looking. But Stacy was nowhere to be found. He remembered the way she used to cry, always holding back, proud even in pain. Tears would cling to her lashes, never falling. As if refusing to give him the satisfaction. Girls in their early 20s are easy to win back, he had believed. He had once picked out a gift for her, apologized sincerely, even gestured toward a durian beside him with a sheepish smile. She hadn't made him kneel, just hugged his waist and said, "You can't do this again." So this time, he thought it would be the same. He had seen the men's watch she bought and took it as a sign she still cared. But then, a message came through from Wendell. "Randolph, have you seen Stacy's Facebook? She got married." Attached was a glaring screenshot of my post. His hands went numb, then the glass in his hand slipped and shattered against the desk, the sharp sound echoing the splintering in his chest. Later that night, around 10 p.m., I stepped out of the elevator after working late. Immediately, I spotted the familiar black Maybach parked just outside the office building. Even after 3 months of no contact, I recognized him instantly. Randolph had lost weight, his face looked sharper, his jaw more defined, but the arrogance he used to carry so easily was gone. replaced by something colder, more desperate. A cigarette dangled between his fingers as he leaned against the car door, eyes bloodshot. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept, like he had driven all night from Harbor City just to be here. Even though it was long past business hours, he still drew glances from the passing employees. Whispers floated through the air around us. I clutched my off-white document bag tightly and stood quietly at the entrance. And then, I stepped outside, immediately feeling Randolph's intense gaze settle on me. Seeing I had no intention of approaching him, he took a few hesitant steps forward, calling out softly, "Stacy." Instinctively, I raised my head, giving him a polite but distant nod. "Mr. Randolph." His fingers twitched uneasily as a faint frown appeared between his brows. Clearly bothered by my coldness. "Stacy, listen," he began cautiously. "It was my fault. I should have told you about Ashley much sooner. But please understand, that's all in the past. These past 3 months without you have been unbearable. But breaking up isn't something we should take lightly. You're younger than me. It's my responsibility to teach you these things. Come back with me, and let's fix this. As for what happened with Ashley this afternoon, I've already sorted it out. You won't see her again." Randolph's arrogance was embedded deeply within him. Even back when we were together, I had always been the one initiating affection, rationalizing it by telling myself he was 5 years older, reserved, and naturally less expressive. But now, it was clear. His passion had simply never been intended for me. My thoughts drifted back to the day Randolph and Ashley returned together from the amusement park. I'd been furious. Randolph and I had argued bitterly. Yet all he'd done was frown slightly, retreat to his study, and coldly tell me to calm down. Perhaps feeling guilty later, he'd sent someone to deliver an entire room full of plush toys the next day, but it had never been those toys that I wanted. What I'd craved most from Randolph, he'd always reserved for Ashley. Before, his heartfelt words might have stirred something inside me. But now, seeing him standing there, only one thought crossed my mind: affection that arrives too late is as worthless as weeds. Love, once missed at the right moment, loses all significance. I looked straight into Randolph's eyes, my smile indifferent and distant. "Mr. Randolph, all that is in the past. When old lovers meet again, we can't pretend we're friends or dwell on what's already past. For me, it's all behind me now." Randolph gazed at me, seemingly conceding slightly. "At least let me drive you home." At that moment, I caught sight of a familiar figure approaching from afar, and my lips curved into a faint smile. Looking up at Randolph again, I spoke calmly, yet firmly, "That won't be necessary. My husband is here to pick me up." Randolph's expression froze momentarily before he let out a forced laugh. "Stacy, please, enough with the jokes. I don't believe you're married. We haven't even officially broken up yet." Despite his confident words, his eyes betrayed an underlying panic he himself probably didn't recognize. Just then, Tyler stepped smoothly to my side, casually slipping an arm around my waist. On his wrist was the sleek watch I'd gifted him for his birthday. "Sorry I'm late, babe," he said warmly, his voice gentle yet possessive. "I went to buy your favorite cake, but the line was ridiculous." Randolph's face instantly drained of color. As Tyler began guiding me away, Randolph instinctively stepped in front of us, blocking our path. Tyler raised an eyebrow in mild annoyance, looking at him as if noticing him for the first time. "Excuse us, old man." My mind wandered back to a day long ago. Ashley had returned, and friends had automatically paired Randolph with her, leaving only a corner seat for me. Feeling humiliated, I refused to sit, and Ashley, sensing my discomfort, had given up her own spot. The moment Ashley left, Randolph had cried, prompting the others to console him. Someone had even frowned at me, demanding I apologize to him. I'd felt trapped, my lips pressed tightly together, refusing to yield. Seeing this, that person sat beside Ashley instead. Furious and hurt, I had stormed out alone. Someone later asked Randolph why he hadn't chased after me. He'd shrugged it off, confidently assuming I'd cool down easily, reassuring them. "Stacy's easy to pacify. Besides, we're on a mountainside, she can't go far. At worst, she'll sulk at the entrance." Still, despite his casual words, he'd grabbed his keys and driven out to find me. But I was nowhere in sight. Inexplicably, my tearful expression had haunted him. I had always been proud. When upset, my tears would cling stubbornly to my lashes, refusing to fall. Young girls in their early 20s, after all, were typically easy to appease. Randolph knew this well. Each time he chose an expensive gift, apologized gently, and made some amusing gesture, I'd soften. Instead of making him beg, I'd wrap my arms around his waist, quietly pleading, "Don't do this again." This time, Randolph thought it would be no different. Seeing Tyler wearing the watch I'd chosen for him reassured Randolph somewhat, until Wendell's message shattered that confidence. "Randolph, have you seen Stacy's Facebook? She got married." The glaring screenshot filled his vision. And a glass cup slipped from Randolph's fingers, shattering loudly on the floor. As the echo faded, something inside him shattered along with it. Months later, after working overtime until past 10 p.m., I stepped out of the elevator to see that familiar black Maybach parked outside the office. During the 3 months of our separation, Randolph had noticeably lost weight. His jawline had sharpened, and his composed manner had taken on an unfamiliar coldness. Leaning against the car door, cigarette dangling loosely between his fingers, he looked exhausted, his eyes faintly red. Perhaps from driving overnight from Harbor City just to see me. Though it was late, his presence inevitably attracted whispers and curious stares from passing colleagues, standing by the entrance. Clutching my off-white document bag, I frowned slightly. The moment I appeared, Randolph's gaze immediately locked onto me again. Seeing my obvious reluctance to approach, he walked forward hesitantly. Calling softly, "Stacy," I instinctively raised my head, meeting his gaze with a detached politeness. "Mr. Randolph." His fingers twitched uneasily, his expression troubled. "Stacy, listen, what happened before was my fault. I should have explained about Ashley earlier, but I swear it's all behind me now. These 3 months apart made me realize how much I need you. Breaking up isn't something to do impulsively. You're younger, it's my job to guide you. Let's go back together and start over. I've already dealt with Ashley. You won't see her again." Randolph's pride had always defined him. Even when we'd been together, it had always been me making the first move. I used to rationalize Randolph's reserved behavior, telling myself that he was 5 years older, naturally calm, and not the passionate type. It was normal, I thought, but eventually, I realized his passion simply wasn't meant for me. I recalled vividly the day Randolph and Ashley returned together from the amusement park. I'd been absolutely livid. When we fought that night, Randolph had merely frowned at me, retreated coldly to his study, and tossed me an indifferent, "Calm down." Perhaps out of guilt, he'd sent me an entire roomful of stuffed animals the following day, but those toys meant nothing to me. All I wanted was the affection he so effortlessly gave to Ashley. Before that night, his token gestures might have touched me, but now, looking at Randolph standing before me, I knew one thing for certain. Affection given too late is worthless. Even the most precious feelings lose their meaning once the right moment passes. With a faint smile, I met his gaze calmly. "Mr. Randolph, all of that is in the past. Encountering an ex again was never simple. I couldn't pretend we were friends after our breakup. Nor could I dwell endlessly on old wounds. To me, Randolph was just a chapter in history now." Randolph's expression softened slightly, a hint of compromise in his eyes. "Let me drive you home." At that moment, I noticed a familiar figure approaching from the other side. I curled my lips into a gentle smile, looking up at Randolph distantly. "There's no need, my husband is here to pick me up." Randolph sighed, clearly unconvinced. "Stacy, I don't believe you're married. We haven't even truly broken up yet. Stop fooling around." His confidence was superficial. I could clearly see the underlying panic in his eyes, even if he himself hadn't fully acknowledged it yet. His self-assurance shattered completely when Tyler reached my side and gently wrapped an arm around my waist, the sleek watch I'd gifted him prominently displayed on his wrist. "Sorry I'm late, babe," Tyler said smoothly. "I stopped to get your favorite cake, and the line was crazy." Randolph's face paled instantly. Tyler began to guide me away, but Randolph impulsively stepped in front of us, blocking our path. Tyler raised an eyebrow, his expression mildly amused, as if he'd only just noticed Randolph standing there. "Excuse us, old man," he said, a mischievous gleam in his eyes. I shot Tyler an amused glance. Randolph was only 29, certainly not old enough to deserve the label, but Tyler's teasing tone carried just enough provocation to make anyone's fists itch. Randolph stared at Tyler in recognition, his expression freezing briefly before darkening into a scowl. You and him. Tyler reached casually into his pocket, pulling out our marriage certificate with exaggerated ease. Just officially married, he finished, flashing a triumphant smile. Randolph's disbelief deepened, confusion clouding his refined features. Stacy, we haven't broken up, we were just taking some time to cool off. Even if you're angry, you can't just marry someone else on a whim. He's younger than you. You're clearly not compatible. Tyler bristled with anger, tightening his grip protectively around me. I say we're compatible, so we are. Who the hell are you to tell us otherwise? We're a perfect match. 3 months. Do you seriously think a cooling-off period lasts that long? Haven't you heard the 3-day rule? No contact for 3 days means it's over. Besides, Stacy already made it clear she's done with you. He leaned closer, his voice dropping into a threatening whisper. Old man, do yourself a favor and move on. As soon as we climbed into the car, Tyler's usually playful eyes narrowed angrily. The moment the door shut, he wrapped his arms tightly around my waist like a clingy, wounded puppy. Baby, don't listen to anything he says. We're perfect together. Perfect in every way, especially in bed. My face flushed instantly, and I quickly slapped a hand over his mouth to silence him. What I hadn't anticipated was Tyler taking me directly to his family's estate that very night. At dinner, he repeatedly sighed dramatically, clearly fishing for sympathy. His family remained silent, accustomed to his dramatics, though their eyes showed faint disdain. Eventually, his grandmother spoke up, exasperated. What's wrong with you? Tyler had clearly been waiting for this exact moment. Without hesitation, he launched into a detailed account of how Randolph had tried to steal his beloved wife, painting him as an immoral homewrecker intent on destroying a happily married couple. He even theatrically declared, if I lose my wife, life wouldn't be worth living. His grandmother became instantly furious. How dare he, trying to take away my granddaughter-in-law, unacceptable. This must be dealt with. At that moment, I fully understood why everyone cautioned never to cross Tyler. He was utterly spoiled, shameless, and a genuine troublemaker. Yet, to my surprise, Tyler's 2 powerful uncles nodded seriously in agreement, while even his strict father seemed resigned, though still shooting Tyler a cold glare. It became clear to me that Randolph's privileged days were over. Meanwhile, Randolph himself barely remembered how he'd gotten home. He only knew that he woke to find his car crashed against a bridge railing. Calling his assistant to handle the mess, he was quickly rushed to a private hospital. A small wound on his forehead from broken glass shards. News spread quickly, and a crowd gathered anxiously outside his room. Fortunately, after treatment, the doctor assured everyone it was just a minor injury. Wendell spoke up first. Randolph, weren't you going to meet Stacy tonight? How'd you end up in an accident? I told you earlier, that online photo was probably just to provoke you. Why were you speeding? Randolph's mind immediately went to that provocative image online again, his heart clenching painfully. He had always assumed his cold treatment would teach Stacy a lesson, making her stop using breakups as threats. He never imagined she'd genuinely move on so swiftly. Randolph vividly remembered the day Stacy had first mentioned breaking up. At the time, he'd been helping a drunken Ashley leave a bar. He'd even briefly wondered if his passive acceptance of Ashley's affection would affect Stacy. Yet, he'd arrogantly dismissed the concern. As he was leaving, however, he'd overheard Stacy saying decisively, "I don't want a man who's been sullied." When Stacy had called him later, he'd hesitated but ultimately answered. It became immediately clear she'd already heard everything. Randolph's first instinct had been to find the person who betrayed him, but none of that mattered anymore. From that moment on, Stacy had truly moved forward. Stacy was crying uncontrollably, heartbroken, completely shattered by the news. Randolph had never heard her cry that way before. The first time he'd met Stacy, she'd worn a bold red strapless gown, breathtakingly beautiful and radiating a blend of delicate grace and confidence. She had stood in the middle of a crowd of admiring young men, her slight frown indicating she was accustomed, perhaps even bored, with such attention. Randolph overheard someone nearby discussing her impressive family background, marveling at her striking beauty, watching her proud, slightly spoiled demeanor from afar. Randolph felt his heart stir for the first time. Later, as the party wound down, Stacy had been cornered by a drunken man. Randolph immediately stepped forward, protecting her by having the man removed from the premises. He still vividly recalled noticing how Stacy's ears turned faintly red in embarrassment. Even with their 5-year age difference, Randolph couldn't suppress the feelings growing within him. At that time, Ashley had already left him, and Randolph found himself drawn into a relationship with Stacy, uncertain at first how long it would last. 3 years passed in a heartbeat, and he remained faithfully by her side. But when Ashley returned, his emotions became confused, tangled by the echoes of their shared past. Randolph allowed Ashley back into his life as just a friend. Convinced he had control over his feelings, Stacy had argued with him repeatedly about Ashley's presence, but he found her concerns tiring. The night Stacy declared she wanted to break up, Randolph dismissed it as another fleeting outburst. Even when she ceased all communication afterward, he believed it was just another silent treatment phase. But now, Randolph's eyes turned red, grief-stricken and lost. People nearby exchanged uneasy glances, quickly excusing themselves to avoid the tension. Leaving only Wendell by his side, though Randolph remained firmly in control of his family's company, he had many half-siblings, making the news of his emotional breakdown sensitive enough to keep quiet. "She got married," Randolph suddenly whispered, barely realizing he'd spoken aloud. He had always been composed, careful not to expose vulnerability, especially in matters involving business. Admitting such a deep loss openly was utterly unlike him. Wendell appeared stunned. "She really got married? To whom?" Observing Randolph's devastated expression, Wendell thought silently to himself that maybe it wasn't too late. Perhaps they could win her back somehow. "Tyler," Randolph answered quietly, staring blankly out the window. Wendell immediately fell silent. He understood then, with painful clarity, that Randolph and Stacy were truly over. He didn't have the heart to voice it aloud. After some hesitation, Wendell left to fetch some food, leaving Randolph alone. When the door closed softly, Randolph pulled out his phone, attempting to message Stacy, but a notification appeared. "You are no longer friends with this user." Stacy had already deleted him, explaining why he couldn't access her social media accounts. If he'd reached out sooner, if he'd recognized his mistakes earlier, would things have ended differently? Overwhelmed by regret, Randolph finally let the tears fall, covering his face. He painfully recalled the day Stacy had sobbed over the phone. Instead of comforting her, he'd snapped impatiently, "Are you done yet?" Her long silence afterward marked the irreversible end of their relationship. On my wedding day with Tyler, many guests attended, though oddly, not many from our former social circle appeared. Still, the banquet hall was lively and filled with warmth. To my surprise, Randolph showed up. He looked noticeably thinner, worn out compared to before. I'd heard that Ashley had gone abroad again, though I didn't know why. Her family had gone bankrupt years ago, and it had always been Randolph's influence that allowed her to remain accepted socially. Not long ago, I'd even overheard others mocking Ashley for trying to seduce a foreign student overseas. Randolph seemed even more exhausted and haggard than the last time I'd seen him. When Tyler stepped onto the stage first, he appeared visibly nervous, half joking to his friends, "Don't let her run away at the last minute." His close friends burst into laughter. "Relax, Tyler, we've got an eye on her," they reassured him playfully. Even as Tyler moved forward, he repeatedly glanced back toward the entrance, anxiously awaiting my arrival. When the banquet hall doors opened and I stepped inside, Tyler's smile widened joyfully. "My wife is absolutely stunning," he declared loudly, prompting laughter and affectionate applause from his aunts and older relatives. As music softly filled the room, I walked steadily toward him, standing before Tyler, his gaze fixed deeply onto mine, and suddenly tears streamed down his cheeks. Embarrassed, he quickly covered his eyes and lowered his head. In the audience, his grandmother and aunts dabbed at their own misty eyes. moved by his genuine emotion. I stepped forward and gently embraced him. Nearby, my father shook his head, amused and slightly incredulous. "Kid, why are you crying? I'm the one giving away my precious daughter, and even I haven't shed a tear yet." Tyler laughed softly, wiping his tears away. When my father's trembling hand placed mine into Tyler's grasp, Tyler's fingers shook slightly as he held on tightly. During the ring exchange, Tyler paused briefly to calm his nerves, finally managing to slip the ring gently onto my finger. With that gesture, our marriage became official. Descending from the stage hand in hand, my eyes caught sight of Randolph, quietly seated in the far corner. Even from afar, I could see his eyes reddened with unshed tears. After the ceremony, during the lively toast, Randolph disappeared. He had left without a word. The celebration continued joyfully around us, glasses clinking and cheerful laughter echoing throughout the hall. Eventually, Tyler and I decided to quietly slip away with our best man and maid of honor to our new home. Tyler went ahead to get the car while I waited nearby. Standing there, I overheard a familiar voice from the luxurious Maybach parked close by. Randolph was speaking softly, his tone low and raspy as he addressed Wendell inside the car. "I sent Ashley away because she crossed the line by confronting Stacy," Randolph confessed quietly. "Sometimes I wonder, if Ashley hadn't come between us, would it have been me standing beside Stacy today? She looked stunning today, radiant beyond words, but she wasn't mine anymore." Unable to bear hearing anymore, I quietly turned away and climbed into Tyler's car. As he drove, a permanent, joyful smile lit up his handsome face. My thoughts drifted back to earlier that morning when he'd arrived to pick me up from my family home, wearing a crisp white suit, his dark hair falling messily yet charmingly across his forehead. He had rushed into the room and lifted me effortlessly into his arms, celebrating like a victorious knight returning from battle. Cheers and laughter had erupted around us, drowning out all memories of sadness. Yes, I told myself silently, the past truly belonged in the past. When we arrived at our villa, Tyler wasted no time at all. By nightfall, he had eagerly sent everyone away, practically dragging me into our bedroom. His white shirt slipped gracefully from his shoulders, revealing his smooth, toned back, broad shoulders tapering perfectly into a lean waist. Even without seeing his face, his youthful strength and vitality were impossible to ignore. Gently, he took my hand and pressed it lightly against his firm abs, his warm lips quickly finding mine in the peaceful stillness of the evening. Soft, restrained sighs blended harmoniously with the moonlight streaming through the window, his love both fervent and deeply sincere, before drifting into a restful sleep. A quote I once read came clearly to mind: "May the next time we cry, it be from pure happiness." Tyler's POV. The first time Tyler laid eyes on Stacy was in the sunlit courtyard of her family's villa. He had chased away all the others crowding around and casually glanced up, spotting her lounging lazily on the balcony, dressed in simple shorts and a loose tank top. Her slender waist, elegant legs, and gently flowing hair were captivating, effortlessly holding his attention. Perhaps sensing his lingering gaze, Stacy quickly stood and vanished indoors. Originally, Tyler had intended to spend his visit in a hotel, feeling it more appropriate as he was now an adult, but the fleeting image of Stacy's delicate face changed everything. Oddly enough, Stacy appeared wary of him. From the day he moved in, she avoided eating meals downstairs. Even the housekeeper began murmuring about Stacy's sudden absence from family gatherings. On his final night in the villa, Tyler returned late and unexpectedly encountered Stacy in the kitchen, sleepily drinking water. She seemed dazed, clearly mistaking him for someone else. After placing her glass down, she stumbled softly into his chest, her arms wrapping comfortably around his waist. She murmured something unintelligible, but Tyler was too distracted by her faint fragrance and the way his heart raced wildly at her unexpected closeness. The next time Tyler heard Stacy's name was through an overheard conversation between his mother and Stacy's mom, who were discussing Stacy's new boyfriend. Tyler pressed his lips into a tight line, remaining silent despite the fierce jealousy burning deep within. Stacy was in college then, and he forced himself to bury his feelings, believing there was nothing he could do. Yet, During summer vacations, he'd find subtle reasons to visit her house, always confirming the same thing. Stacy was still cautious around him. Eventually, unable to suppress his emotions any longer, Tyler hired someone to discreetly investigate Randolph. When he learned the truth of Randolph's complicated involvement with Stacy, Tyler immediately approached his mother and confessed his long-hidden feelings. Determined, he insisted that she set him up on a blind date with Stacy. Naturally, she refused at first, shocked by his boldness. "If I can't marry Stacy, then I'll never marry anyone," Tyler declared firmly. His mother, clearly annoyed, snapped, "Suit yourself." Tyler glanced at the curious crowd eavesdropping from the living room and joked lightly, "Well, if I don't get married, maybe I'll just become a homewrecker." Eventually, his persistence paid off, and his family reluctantly agreed to arrange the date, unwilling to risk any scandal. Unexpectedly, Stacy herself took the initiative that evening, surprising him with a kiss. From that moment onward, everything fell perfectly into place. Tyler played the role of a devoted boyfriend so convincingly that Stacy quickly lowered her guard and wholeheartedly accepted him. One night, after Tyler had beaten up a drunken troublemaker, he feared Stacy might become frightened and leave him. For a moment, he felt completely helpless, but Stacy simply smiled gently, affectionately ruffling his hair. At that instant, the pure white moonlight of his youth shone brightly on him once again, illuminating his heart as clearly as it had that summer when he was 18. From that day forward, Tyler and Stacy's futures were forever intertwined. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, so feel free to share your opinions. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more great stories. We'll see you in the next video.